Hello, everybody. So today we'll cover our solution for ransomware protection in NetApp ONTAP. Specifically, restrict this presentation to NetApp ONTAP and Cloud Insights. Okay. Before we proceed, customary to go over this confidentiality and proprietary information here. Anything we talk about, I have no control over. Things can change, right? So let's move on. All right. So I've been here at NetApp for a while. Started off as a technical support engineer and then moved to the NetApp IT's storage team. I'm part of a group that's responsible for storage engineering. We'll talk about our group in particular, the entire storage operations and storage engineering team in the next slide or two. Right. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about ransomware protection. This is a major and critical topic and of concern for all major corporations. At NetApp IT, we understand the importance of having proactive measures against these threats, and our approach involves smart, automated, and advanced defenses tailored to anticipate and combat these risks effectively. Uh, and as you can tell, we're mostly using NetApp NetApp products, NetApp features wherever possible. Right. This is a quick look at the agenda. We'll briefly cover some of the consequences of ransomware attacks, and then overview about our solutions, and calling out some of the features that we will cover today, which is tamper-proof snapshots, ARP, MAV, Cloud Insights, workload security, or so I should say now after post insight, it's DII, data infrastructure insights workload security. It's quite a mouthful. I'm still getting used to that, right? And then of course, what's next and recovery strategy, right? So a bit about NetApp IT. We're also going by the moniker Customer One, which means we try to use our products, as I said, not all of it, but whenever possible, we'll try to use, as Kevin pointed out, right? We have about we manage about 140 petabytes raw, and that comes to about 230 petabytes provision. So we're trying to over provision as and using our storage efficiency features, right? We have about 350 corporate applications, both internal and external facing. I'll call out that this is corporate infrastructure, and most of it is production subprod. So we have to be cautious about what we do without affecting our services, right? We use NetApp ONTAP. We still have a significant on-prem landscape. We have a growing presence in AWS with FSx ONTAP, and CVO in both Azure and AWS, right? Uh, in terms of volumes, the petabyte raw and provision data that you see, it translates to about 32,000 volumes, of which about 6,000 are iSCSI volumes. So when you're talking about protection, ransomware protection, this is our target landscape, right? And like any decent IT shop, we try to, any changes that we introduce to our environment, we start with our subprod environment and move it into our production environment. And we have a good way of identifying which is production, non-production, which are tier 1 or tier 2 applications because of the application name embedded in every single volume, right? So it's easy for us to introduce changes and starting from tier 4 applications all the way to tier 0, tier 1 application, right? So let's look at some of the risk and impact of ransomware. Now it's available as a service. I believe I haven't played around with it personally, so and it makes it easier for cyber criminals to launch attacks. Oh, by the way, while I was talking about myself, I should have called out that I'm a storage engineer, but not an expert when it comes to security best practices, nor am I an expert in ransomware. Uh, but this is all the features that are available on ONTAP, and so we are extending it. We have to make sure we take care of our data. As you can see, why? I'm pretty sure most of you know, but we'll talk about it. So as you can see here, we got some of this data from a report. Nearly 89% of organizations are they, this is like a top 5 threat, of which you can see that supposedly, I'm pretty sure the number may be higher. 56% of organizations have paid a ransomware to recover their data, right? And 75% have experienced an attempted ransomware attack in the last 12 months or so. So also, I came across an article in the Cybercrime Crime magazine, which says the fastest growing type of cybercrime, referring to ransomware, is expected to attack a business, consumer, or device every 2 seconds by 2031. So it has to be critical problem area to solve and address for all major enterprises, right? Every decent IT shop must take care of this. Can be looking the other way and hoping that, oh, the data, my storage is at the back and nobody can get to it unless they're on the corporate network, right? But that's not how it works. Initially, I thought, oh, I used to think the same, but until I came across some problem areas, which I'm like, whoa, I never thought of this. So, okay, so as you know, the primary target of ransomware attack is the corporate data, right? Enterprise cannot operate without access to its data. That's why storage is considered the last line of defense. We NetApp has solutions that addresses all the needs, which is securing by security is part of our design. We have real-time tools that are capable of doing real tools or features that are capable of real-time detection and response. We also have a control plane with comprehensive ransomware defense, which will be part of Blue XP. We have this has been available for a while, which is air-gapped write once, read many protection, right? And NetApp is very confident about our solution that we offer a data recovery guarantee, right? So I think up to about 5 million. If in case there is a situation where we cannot recover the data, in spite of all of the best practices and the A series that is deployed, it's a managed service which guarantees up to $5 million, right? So that talks a lot about the confidence that NetApp has, right? So this is, I will go over this in detail towards the end of my presentation, but this is kind of like the end state, not a complete solution. As and when we see gaps, we'll be tweaking our controls and making sure it's secure. But if it's a compromised user or compromised admin, right? How these features that we'll be talking about avoid some layer of protection, right? Any questions so far? I'm not paying attention to chat, so
No, we look good.
hold
Thanks.
on. All right, thank you very much. All right, so next few slides, we will cover the main feature set for protection, ransomware protection. But before that, we will talk about some of the features that we are all familiar with, and I'm pretty sure anybody here can talk about snapshot, snap wall, right? Compliance, snap log. So this snapshot by itself it cannot be altered once it's taken, right? Either manually or using a policy, policy based on the schedule, it'll take a snapshot. And unless you have admin privileges to the storage cluster, you cannot delete the snapshot, right? So from the application end, you cannot tamper with the snapshot, right? So in our case, what we are doing is every single volume, we saw we have about 31,000, 32,000 volumes. Every single volume has a snapshot policy attached to it, unless it is either a database volume, in which case the snapshot is managed by a script or Snap Center, right? And another case where we do not enable attach a snapshot policy is for disposable volumes that are part of disposable infrastructure, which let's say your Kubernetes worker nodes, right? In our case, every the cluster, all servers, they boot off of iSCSI LANs. So we have a snapshot policy attached to it to take snapshots and retain it for about up to 30 days, unless it's a worker Kubernetes worker node, because it generates so much. It tracks all the activity data, so the snapshots usually end up consuming all the space in the volume. So that's one area. And then of course, anything to do with container storage. In our case, we use Trident. So there also, we do not attach a policy, right? So, and then of course, SnapVault lets you, the snapshots are local, but SnapVault lets you have, you can have backup on remote for extended periods. So we have that enabled, either Snap Mirror and Vault for all of our production volumes for sure. And nobody can change it. And I'll talk later in one of the slides. I'll talk about how we manage control or access to the cluster, admin account and privileged accounts, right? So that way it's not easy to compromise the account, but if they do, it's not easy to delete the snapshots also. And then comes snap block compliance. Here, you can set a retention period, and so you can have enterprise level, which with privileged access, you can delete the snapshot, snap log snapshot, or there is compliance level, which cannot be deleted at all, right? So in our case, how we use it is snapshot, most volumes get a policy attached, snap lock snap vault, every single production volume gets it. And then snap lock compliance is available for some tier one applications, especially if there is SOX requirement. Then anything that requires 3-year hold or 7-year hold, right? That gets a snap lock compliance enabled. Okay, and then we'll talk about now
Quick
getting to,
question,
yeah.
if I may. If you go back just the one slide there, when you think about the total amount of data that we have in our systems, how much are we protecting, or maybe how much space do the compliance and enterprise snap lock data
The
sets occupy?
compliance is probably about less than 10%. Yeah.
Okay.
Just the tier one applications, that's all they get, yeah. Because nobody else requires that 3-year or a 7-year hold, right? So yeah.
Okay.
And we have so from day before's presentation, somebody had a question about auditing and all that. We have a dedicated auditing team, which every quarter they go through the process of picking a random recovery point and making sure we can recover and all that.
Very good. Can you talk more about the virtual air gap that we provide? Like how some of the basics involved in creating a virtual air gap?
Yeah, so we make sure that it's in a different data center. Make sure we do not have direct. It's not part of the same subnet, and every single cluster, they do not share the same admin password, and so yeah.
Got it. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Yep. And so we are also trying to get to extend those features as and when we see gaps, right? Like make sure we are those air-gapped backup clusters, target clusters, protocol access is disabled. So, even if, say, let's say somebody tries to access the cluster, they cannot mount it because NFS access, CIFS access, iSCSI access is all disabled. So can't do anything other than use it as a target for
Got it. Makes
backup.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now coming to the real feature set that we've started rolling out for the past 6 months. So which is tamper-proof snapshots here. As you know, we had that snapshot and snap log, right? Now that feature is available for use on your primary storage, right? Um, which means once that tamper-proof snapshot feature is enabled and you create a snapshot specifying a retention time, nobody can delete that snapshot, which gives you an extra level of protection, but can be administrative overhead to operations overhead, which because uh, if for some reason you want to do a snapshot restore or a wall delete, that is not possible unless the snapshots, the snapshot, every single snapshot that was taken using with that feature set, snapshot lock, right, has expired. So notice the retention period there on the rightmost column, 6 hours, 24 hours. That's what we are going with right now until everybody is comfortable. When during my initial rollout, I was going with a much larger retention time. Is that could be a blocker for some environments, as I experienced it personally. It might work fine for the first few weeks until you come to a month-end release cycle or a quarter-end release cycle, where some of the application teams want to drop some snapshots or drop a volume, right? So that's something you have to be extremely cautious about. Make sure you know the environment before you turn on this feature, or at the worst case, start with the shorter retention period, 1 hour or so, right? So application teams, they don't mind waiting for an hour or two, but if you tell them, oh, you have to wait for 24 hours or couple of days, then it'll end up being a P1. So make sure you know you understand the environment, how they're using it. Right? Let's see, that was tamper-proof snapshot. This is of all the features that we are going to be talking about. This is the one you have to pay extra attention to because there's no way backing out. There's kind of like a backup workaround. You will have to you can spin up a clone from that snapshot that if they want to recover, right? Or rename this volume and take it out of the pipe of their workflow. Those are the two workarounds that we use. But that snapshot will have to that volume will have to remain in place until those snapshots expire. So be extremely careful when you turn on this option. Okay. Now, so with tamper-proof snapshots, you can take a snap once the feature is enabled. You can attach a snapshot policy and have tamper-proof snapshots taken for a schedule, or you can manually take a snapshot specifying the retention time. Right. So it's not automated, right? But with ARP, this gives you the ability to monitor activity within the volume based on either the extensions, based on uh, any encryption that's part of that, and then it takes if it suspects there's something wrong. Before that, I should say, when you enable this feature on a volume, it goes into a learning mode. minimum 10-day learning mode, and it might go up to 30 days based on how much data it gets to profile. And then it builds a profile of the activity in that volume. And then when it activates itself, it will look for any deviation from the profile. And then if there is a significant difference, it'll say, okay, I think this is a suspected attack. It takes a snapshot and then monitors further activity. And then if it's fairly certain that it's very likely to be a ransomware attack, it'll take another snapshot and send an alert to the admin, right? So this in the next feature of, next release of ONTAP, which is 9.16 most likely, there is no need for a training period, right, or a dry run period. It's already, they're going to have trained models available. So as soon as you activate this feature, right at that very second, you have protection available, right? Currently, you have to wait for that for the volume ARP to complete its dry run, build the profile, and only then activates, right? So in our case, we have enabled it for every single NAS volume. I should say it's right now it only supports NAS workload. SAN is not yet supported, so we've enabled it everywhere. One consideration is that any volume that has high uh, create file creation or deletion, say month end or release activity, that is not suitable because it's a deviation from normal behavior that ARP has recorded. And also any volume that is already being encrypted by the application. That is not suitable, but yet the file level activity, since ARP tracks that, the deletes and creates, and if it also observes that file extensions are being modified, that is still a good candidate, even with encryption. So, all right. So we talked about these features, ARP and tamper-proof snapshots, but
Ram, can I ask a quick question about
sure, sure.
the ARP?
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
So in our implementation, we're really good at not getting any false positives.
uh-huh,
And so I'm curious if we've had any, if you can say or not,
uh-huh.
if we've had any ARP snapshots get created.
So,
Have we
sorry, say that again.
have we run into a situation where ARP has caught something and has created a snapshot to protect the data? Has that happened since you've implemented or
Oh,
not?
yeah, yeah. Quite a few. So
And
I
what is the cause of them? What caused the,
yeah, so what I've discovered is where is this? Yeah, back here. A, um, Part of a release cycle, some application teams, they have this approach of deleting every single file and
yep,
then refreshing it. And so there were the incidents in the last quarter end where I ran into this problem where it creates a snapshot. ARP suspects it's an attack. It creates a snapshot, and then when the application team wants to um, delete the volume, it or revert from a previous snapshot, right? They they're unable to because this ARP, the snapshot created by ARP locks it, right?
yeah,
But oh, so that's a very good point. I forgot to call that out. ARP also takes a snapshot which cannot be easily deleted. But unlike the tamper-proof snapshots, you can ask ARP to mark the or mark the volume as a false positive attack, right? And which means it'll go back and clear all the snapshots that were created by
okay,
ARP. So yeah, so that's why I say tamper-proof snapshots be extra careful. Whereas with ARP or cloud work, DII workload security, there is a workaround to release the snapshots.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah,
And that would be
thank you
something
for
you'd
calling
want to
out.
protect with Mav, I imagine, which you'll talk about in a minute. I
Yes.
had one other question on the autonomous ransomware protection.
Hmm.
So if imagine that you're not getting any snapshots get created by
Hmm.
ARP. So
Hmm.
either you're not getting attacked, which is awesome,
Hmm.
or it's not catching the attacks, or like maybe
Yes.
it's not implemented correctly. Is there anything that you do to sort of test it? Like, do you ever let's just run a apply a virus to or start encrypting some files just to see if it's set up right or
Hmm.
anything like that? Is any way to
Yeah, there is a tool available. NetApp provides a script for simulating a ransomware attack.
cool.
Yeah, so that's something you could use. Yeah.
You could run that in
So
a directory that's got the policy established, and you can make sure that it's behaving the way
correct.
to.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly. Yep. Yep.
very cool. Thank you for that.
Yep. As part of our release, we did do some tests in the lab. So first round, I was able to successfully use the test script and simulate an attack, right? But then ARP is turned out to be smarter than me. It figures out that, ooh, this guy seems to be testing.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then so it, oh, and also I discovered if the same user that created the file goes later deletes it, ARP looks treats that as a normal operation, right? It has to be from a different user ID and all that. So quite interesting. Yeah,
Oh, that is
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. So all right. So moving on to multi. How are we doing on time? Oh my goodness, all right, almost time. So MAV, right? So let's say these are all protection for anything to do with the data. Let's say my account is compromised. I have privileged account, right? So if that is compromised, or I I'm triggered by something and I I turn out to be the bad guy, right? How do you protect that, right? Let's say something Kevin said, I'm pissed, and then I go and try to delete some volumes before I walk out of the building. So there needs to be some protection there, right? This is part of that zero trust approach. S- with using MAV, once you enable that and set the controls, you you have the ability to um, challenge or require approval for anything such as simple as wall create, wall delete, snapshot create, snapshot delete, modify, any one of those, right? Uh, in our case, we have started deploying this across all of our clusters. Where for now we are just having controls to prevent changing the ARP policy and the snapshot policy. But we are working on extending the controls. This is not something our operations team approves of, because now anytime they're trying to make a change, that needs an extra another admin to approve, right? There's a delay in trying to make some configuration change, and then you need an approval from a second account. And so you might get some pushback from the operations team. But in our case, I'm pretty sure all enterprises, they have to make sure there are controls in place to prevent this kind of threat, right? So there is no other way but to start implementing these changes, right?
We
So we have,
we have an
sorry.
expanding list of Mav commands. How do you decide which ones you want to implement and which ones you don't? Looks like you've got.
Yeah, so we have to negotiate with our operations team and slowly extend the controls. Anything to do with automation, do not include it. Make sure it's not included in the MAV control, right? So wall delete or wall creates, that should not be part of your automation of MAV control if you have automation in place, automated provisioning, lifecycle management, and all that. Right.
Got it.
So make sure, yeah. So yeah, the list of controls available is published, updated based on every release. More features are being added to MAV rule configuration. So we have enabled it for all of our clusters. We discovered that there is, when you deploy MAV, there is there's a set of default rules, and getting to set diag mode is part of that default configuration. We discovered that the cloud, sorry, DII or data infrastructure insights. If you have collectors deployed to or deployed for every cluster that you have, and net groups data is also part of the feature set it's pulling from each cluster. It by default it'll try to use set tag, right? So make sure your collectors on DII is configured not to use set tag, right? That's one loophole we found. After deploying MAV, we discovered all these alerts coming to our operations team. They were flooded with these approval notifications. So, right. So now we'll talk about Cloud Insights. This is add-on to ARP, another nice tool. It gives you, it goes above and beyond, looks at file level activity, user level activity, and takes action, records all of the data for forensic analysis if required. Up to 13 months is stored, right? So as you can see on the in the screenshot here, it tells you uh, it's a possible attack and could be by this user. Why? Because so many files were encrypted or deleted. In our case, we're deploying it for trying to deploy it across the board. But then again, the limitation is it's for NAS workloads only, right? So anything related to file activity, say somebody's trying to copy certain data, restricted data, that you can set alerts around that and policies to take a snapshot, or um, even go to the extent of locking access, blocking the user if you have the connector for LDAP or AD defined. It has the ability to do that. So make sure when you set the policy, you either limit it to just taking snapshots, and if you block, it can cause interruption to legitimate activity also. I discovered it by quite accidentally. The current limitation with workload security is that you can only have one policy defined. Let's say you want a policy for your subprod environment, another for production. That's not possible currently. Yeah, so watch out for that. And another one blocker I found was that every single collector has to be deployed for per SVM. So if I have like 600 or 700 SVMs, I have to configure a collector for per SVM, right? That could be a headache. All right. So yeah, like I called out, these are all the reports that's available based on activity type, based on the entity types, which is basically the file extension, right? So quite useful. And since I told you earlier, I'm not a security expert, I found that I would have to work with with our SecOps team to make sense of this activity. That there needs to be some contextual awareness, right? Was that a compromise in one of our endpoints? Does that filter down to what we're seeing on the storage end? right? So, so I think it's a very useful tool for a SecOps team, not just
Yeah.
storage team. Yeah.
Yeah, and what feedback do they typically have there? What is that? I'm just curious. What does that look like when they view that? Because I see this and I say, yeah, I
Hmm.
mean that looks like activity, right?
Hmm.
It's like
Ex
things are active, but
yeah,
what is their
yeah,
feedback? Yeah.
yeah. So, um, when I first saw this and a lot of snapshots being taken, I reached out to the application owners and they had no clue about it. And it's new extensions which they are not aware of. They're saying, "Oh, it's coming from the application itself." We don't know. There's no documentation around it. I reached out to the security team. They said they need more context. So right now we're working with them to make sure the all this data is available to their forensics tools. There are tools such as hunters.io, so it can then um, try to make sense of activity on in our endpoints, our compute, cloud infrastructure, and then s- possible possibly identify a real threat. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Typical security response. We need more information and we need to
yeah,
investigate
yep,
it further.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So it's something we're trying to work with extended teams. Yeah, like you rightly call out, right? Not something one team can decide. Like, ooh, this is
Yeah.
what I'm going to do. Can I go ahead and restore? I don't know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And actually,
So
Timothy just lobbed a question into chat asking if that data can be captured and then sent to an information and event manager tool.
such as
Like
Splunk.
yeah, Splunk,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
yeah,
yes, yes. We
yeah,
have documentation for integrating this with Splunk. Yeah, yes, it can be done.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
All right. So coming back to the screen graphic we shared earlier, now that we've talked about ARP, we've talked about MAV, we've talked about tamper-proof snapshots, cloud workload security, um, how it protects when there's a attack from the application or user or from the storage admin itself, right? So ARP with F policy. F policy is deployed by storage workload security. So it will monitor all activity and then take action, evasive action, take just snapshot or block the user. And of course, tamper-proof snapshots protection is available for SAN infrastructure as well as NAS workloads, right? But whereas ARP is not available, that's what we're trying to explain using this graphic here, right? But if a storage admin account is compromised, MAV will protect. Tamper-proof snapshots also offers protection, and in our case, we go further beyond and integrate with CyberArk. So every single admin account across our clusters is managed. The password is rotated by CyberArk, and privileged account. I cannot access our cluster using my SSO. I need to have a privileged account whose password is managed by CyberArk, and so is everyone from the storage engineering team or the operations team, right? In addition, our account we use for automation. We use Ansible automation platform with ServiceNow frontend that is also managed by CyberArk. So, uh, and to get to CyberArk, you need MFA, and so there's several layers of controls in place to make sure that the credentials are not easily available or accessed by somebody, right?
Yep.
And then the AD and LDAP connectors, it helps workload security to map the user. Otherwise, it'll only list UIDs, right? So it's quite handy. And if you want to go further and lock the user, that's also possible using this connector. So in all, several layers of protection, which and you can keep continuing to tighten MAV controls and so.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
I'll comment in here something similar to what I commented on Tuesday. I'll try to be a little bit more brief. But partners on the call, I mentioned earlier the availability of NetApp on NetApp to come in, talk to your customers, but don't forget that they're also available to talk to you and your services team. I'd strongly suggest that if you have intent to design a layered defense approach for your customers that are running NetApp, that it looks something very similar to this. As you can look through these different inflection points, there are SAO components that could be written for each service offering. Customers, in a lot of cases, especially our storage admins, don't necessarily have the capabilities to really understand the whys and the whats in all of these things. Obviously, they can involve their SecOps team, but I think you, as the experts in their NetApp technology, the experts in delivering that for them, great opportunity for you to get the NetApp on NetApp team again plugged into your services team, and defining what all of these things are, and actually helping them scope out what this should look like for a customer. That's a huge value add for your business. In theory, an additional services offering to sell that maybe you're not offering today. And then the last comment I'll just say is, I think my favorite part about this slide is that the storage admin is the guy with the cool glasses on, and that the user is just inherently a bad guy. So that's great.
Okay, so I have to be honest here. So when I was working on this project, that's when it hit me, like, punch in the gut moment. I do not own the data, and most likely me and other storage engineers, right? We may not understand the how they use the volume, because we let them provision the volume, and after that they're on their own, right? Until some change happens, we don't even know how they're using it. And so unless you have assistance from other teams, you cannot implement security protection measures on your own. So it has to be a team effort. Like in the other meeting, I said that I like that 4C security model from Kubernetes, right? Cloud native security protection, where each tower is responsible for securing their environment, whether it's cluster, container, uh, or code, right? So everybody has to take care of the security. So securing their work.
Yeah, shared responsibility.
Shared
Absolutely.
responsibility. Yes. Yeah. All right. So this is quite easy. Once you know there's a possibility of a ransomware attack, you make sure you isolate, eliminate, try to eliminate the attack, the threat, and then identify further vulnerabilities and make sure that's addressed. And finally, you can always restore from snapshot. Restoring is either single files or entire volume. You can restore. Yeah. Only thing to watch out is tamper-proof snapshots. You'll have to work around it. If cannot wait for a couple of hours, just spin up a clone or restore from a snapshot into a new volume, and then you're on your way. Okay. So what we are trying to do next, we're trying to automate and with the possibility of application owner opting out of ransomware protection. We want to have a dynamic dashboard, so we have end-to-end visibility, not just at the volume level, but MAV, ARP, every single configuration, right? Make sure it's in place. And if it's been disabled, if it'll be highlighted in our dashboard, and that we know that, okay, these are exceptions and intended to be without those safety protections. And SAN support is currently not available, but as soon as it's available, we're tracking that and make sure we'll have that
Soon as it's
enabled.
available, everybody's gonna get excited and run right for ARP.
Yep. I'm waiting for 9.16 with the AI ML
Yeah, they're gonna
enabled.
ask
Yeah.
us, where do they put the PO? Who do they sign it to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So quick one, key takeaways we have. Make sure you have constant monitoring using Cloud Insights or DI or custom dashboards. Make sure you protect your data using tamper-proof snapshots or ARP enabled. And then recovery strategy, make sure you have a process documentation and operations team is aware of who to contact, how to initiate the recovery process, and engage the extended team, right? Compute, virtualizing, because the compromise is not just at the storage layer. It's very likely has to be addressed uh, from security and your virtualization or compute teams.